Hey everyone, and welcome back to our city, Lakewood. What you're seeing now is a time-lapse of our oil reserve from the last episode being depleted. I decided to take care of it right away, rather than doing it periodically over the next few episodes. The plan for today is to get started on our industrial area that we've been talking about for a while now, and we're going to delay the industrial part of it just a little bit longer and start with a power facility for the city. I put in some nuclear power plants some time ago, but I don't quite like where they are and how they look, so we're going to change that. So these are currently the two nuclear power plants that we have in our city. They are at the very edge over here, and honestly I can't really remember what episode it was that I put them in, or even if I featured them in that episode. I think I may have just placed them down here because we were in need of some power. This is where they ended up. They ended up in the same area as our eco water treatment plants, the emergency helicopter stations, our disaster response unit, deep space radar. So it's in a bit of an area where there's a bit of a mix of things, and as you can see, it doesn't really look like I paid too much attention or cared that much at the time. The terrain around the outside edge of our nuclear power plant is a little bit messy. At the time, I probably said something about it being a temporary spot until we find something more permanent. And so that's what we're going to be doing this episode, putting this in a more permanent location. Now, the models for the nuclear power plants themselves, they already look pretty interesting. We have the cooling towers and then the buildings that are attached to them. But our city will be using two nuclear power plants, and I want to have them in an area where they are together. So I think designing some sort of power facility would be best, or power kind of compound. I don't know what you want to call it. So not only are we going to have these two nuclear power plants, but we're going to go through and we're going to pick out some assets from some of the other parts of the electrical power options that we have. And I think we're going to put some things together and make something that looks a little bit better than what we have here. Now, the area that I was thinking about putting this new nuclear facility or compound is over here, where we're going to have our industrial area. So having purely industrial stuff in this area right here is going to be a lot of industry. So I was planning on having a mix of different things. It's kind of going to be all the stuff that doesn't really fit in residential areas. So it's going to be, industry. We'll have our waste processing complex. We'll probably have a cargo airport. And then, of course, the power facility that we're going to be building. And the area that I'd like to put it in is just across the river here from our fishing harbor. And as with most things that I've already done on this channel, I've done this ahead of time, so I'll be referring to a drawing that I have just off to the side, a little screenshot that I have. And then I'm going to just kind of walk through as I'm building it and explain what I'm doing as I go. And so we're going to go down to the landscaping and disasters menu at the bottom, and we're going to go all the way to the right-hand side, and we're going to go to the water structures. And we're going to put in a key just on the shore along the side here, kind of tidy it up a little bit. So if we can get a spot here that'll work, we're going to go at a cost of about $520. So this will take me just a second, I think, to find a spot that will line up good for us. Oh, we're so close. Let me just check that. There we go. That spot will work, I think. As I said, cost of $520. So we'll place that right there. And we do have some of the terrain still sticking out on the side here. So I'm going to go back to the landscaping and disasters menu and over to the left-hand side this time and go to the landscaping tools and use the terrain shift tool. And we're just going to bring this terrain down a little bit so that it is underneath of the water. Okay, cool. And I'm going to also use the soften terrain tool just to tidy it up a little bit under the water. Nothing too crazy. I'm just clicking the mouse a couple times as I go through across here. All right, I think that'll look good. The water will take a minute to just adjust. You can see the waves starting to come up to the side of the key, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. And so from here, we're going to go to our roads, and we are going to pick a road just to go across the bottom edge here. This is a 2-lane road, and we're going to go at a cost of $2,000. And you can see it doesn't quite exactly line up with our key. It looks like we have 2 small grid spaces on this side of extra key compared to the left. So I'm going to place that down right here, $2,000, and I'm going to go back to the key, and I'm going to just even it out and put a little bit more, extend it a little bit on just the side here. I think that lines up pretty good. And so from here, I'm going to go back to the 2-lane road, and I'm going to go to the middle of that road that we just put down. Now I'm going to bring this up at a cost of $1,720. And then I should be able to bring this to the right-hand side at a cost of about 1,000 and line up with that other corner. And I'm going to do the same just on the other side. And so to avoid disrupting the power for the city, I'm going to put in 2 nuclear power plants, 2 new ones this time. And I'm not going to worry about transferring over the other ones. The old ones, I'll just delete them after we get these 2 new ones running. So I'll start with the one on the right-hand side, and I want to make sure that the cooling towers of the nuclear power plants are actually lined up. I don't think it quite looks as good if we have them kind of offset like this. So what I want to do is I want to put another road just around the outside edge of our 2 power plants here. And then we're going to rotate this other one just like that. So now they line up. And so from here, one of the things that I didn't quite like about the nuclear power plant model, we'll go over to this other one right over here because they are actually on, is that there's no steam coming out of the cooling towers. I think there should be a little bit of steam coming out the top. And so to fix that, what we're going to do, we are going to go back into our electricity menu and we're going to put in some geothermal power plants. So we'll put a couple just on the outside edge here. I'm going to turn them off for now, but you can see that there is steam coming out of these ones. So I think that'll look pretty cool in here. And the other part of it is, and it's obviously not an issue that we have to worry about, but if we were ever to have any power issues within the nuclear power plant itself, they do have backup generation of electricity through these geothermal plants. And like I said, obviously something that's not quite built in the game, but I like to imagine scenarios, things like that have happened, that having backup power would be important. And from here, what I'd also like to do is I'm going to go into the water and sewage heating menu, and we're going to put in some water pumping stations. So we already do have some just across the way here. Where are they? Just over here for the water for the city itself. You can see we're drawing in quite a lot of water along the edge here. We're actually starting to deplete the water in the river. So I think what we'll do is we'll have a couple over here. Again, this is just for more of a fun kind of scenario. You know, nuclear power plants, they need to have their own supply of water for cooling. So we'll just put in a couple right here. And obviously they don't have to be turned on, but they can benefit the city when we do turn them on. So we'll put a couple just across there. And again, I'm going to also turn these off since there's really no point in having them on at the moment. Take out some of the roads here, and then I'm going to go back into the water menu and I'm going to scroll to the end and I'm going to pick the tank reservoirs. So I'm going to line up a couple tank reservoirs just beside our water pumps here. And then we're going to go and we are going to connect everything together. Doesn't quite line up like I'd like, so what I'll do is I will bring it up to here like this and then across. And again, we'll turn these off for right now. So we're going to reconnect our perimeter road just over to the other side of our tank reservoirs. And then we're going to take a look at what we've got so far. So we've got our geothermal power plants, our nuclear power plants, our water supply, and our tank reservoirs. So another thing I'd like to put in here is I'd actually like to put in a unique building. I kind of forget what level it was. Let me just scroll through here and see if I can find it. Level 5, and it's going to be the Science Center. So I'm going to put that just on the corner here. I'd like to imagine that there's lots of research going on in the Science Center here concerning nuclear power and nuclear science and things like that. So that's kind of cool. So we'll have that there. And then on the other side of the Science Center, I'm going to put in a park. So I'm going to put in the, let's see where it is, the park with trees. We'll line that up right about here. And then we'll have a pathway just around the outside edge of our Science Center. And that will connect up to our park. Again, we'll turn that off for right now. from here, I'd like to put in a warehouse. So we'll go into the garbage and industry menu, and then at the tabs at the top, there is a warehouse tab. So we're going to put in a medium warehouse just on the bottom part here. Turn that off as well. And then we're going to have another road just coming off the side. Actually, we're going to reduce the perimeter road a little bit. We're actually going to just delete it. And then we're going to tighten up the road just along the outside edge of our warehouse. And then back into the garbage and industry menu, we are going to put down a waste transfer facility just on the other side here. Extend the front road right here. This will be the entryway to our power compound, power facility. And then I think it would be best for us to have a dedicated firehouse. And also at the front here, I'm going to put a police station. I'm going to pretend that that's kind of like a little guardhouse for the facility here, the compound. And then anybody coming into the area will have to go through the security check at the front. So everything's looking pretty good so far. And just for a little bit of decoration, I'm going to put in some power lines. Now, obviously, we don't exactly need to put in power lines because we do have the kind of blue kind of zone that goes around the buildings that transfers power when everything's close enough. But because it is the nuclear power plant, our power facility for the city itself, I think it would be kind of cool to have some power lines coming out of it. So we're going to go a little bit overboard, and we're going to just plop in a whole bunch just along the front edge here in front of our geothermal plants. So I'm spreading these out at a cost of about $40. That should line up good for us. So we can see that it's pretty much in line with where the edges of our geothermal power plants are. And then I'm going to extend these out a little bit. Let's put just a couple more down over here to fill in some of the gaps that we have. Okay, let's do something similar on the other side. We'll just have another one come up here like this, and then two more like that. So again, not really something that was absolutely required. We'll just have these the power lines coming off. We'll have the ones going off on the right-hand side here going towards our city. Eventually, once we fill in the area, it'll connect up a little bit nicer. And then we'll have these other two right here going off to where we're going to have our industrial area or whatever else we decide to put in. And then last, what I'd like to do, just to kind of finish off the area, I'm going to put in a fence around the outside edge. I mean, obviously, it's not the most secure. We do have these tourist attractions. We have the science center and the park with trees. So clearly people that really shouldn't be in the area are going to be coming to the area anyway, but that's kind of the way it is. So we'll go into the parks and plazas. No, we're not. We're going to go into the landscaping and disasters, and then they actually have a walls and fences tab. And from the Parklife DLC, I think I've mentioned this before. When I did the prison, I think the oil industry fence looks a little bit more menacing than any of the other fences. So I'm going to put the oil industry fence along here. And obviously we also can't quite get to the edge. This is going to be a wide open gap for people to walk through. So actually, while we're here, maybe we'll be able to put in a rock or something like that to block people. There we go. That's secure, totally. Okay, let's continue on with our fence. Nope, oil industry fence, there we go. So we'll bring that up, make sure we're at 180 degrees so that we're straight along the edge here. It looks like I didn't put it in quite straight, so let's go back and delete that. likes to curve away just a little bit. You can see at the bottom in the middle there, 179 degrees. That's not quite what we want. Not sure why it likes to do that. Let's turn off our snaps and just line it up. Kind of eyeball it. Oh, it looks like we can actually go a little bit further if we eyeball it. I don't think we'll be able to build right on the key itself. I think that'll work. Let's take out these rocks. Oops. Ooh, I don't want to do that. Let's see if we can put that in without having to go back and delete our water pumps there. Of course not, right? Let's move this out of the way here for just a second. Bring that back across. Cool. Turn our snaps back on. I think we'll be able to get 180 degrees out from that fence that we've already put in. Looks like we're going to be able to sneak it right by these power lines. And then we'll come just to the end here. We'll put in a double fence. Let's try that again. I'd like to try and line it up right with the road, just like the other one. So we'll turn our snaps back off. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, if I could, I would put in a gate here, but that's not something we can do at the moment. There may be a mod out there that you can put in gates. I'm not exactly sure. But we'll bring our fence just back along, right to the edge again. Bring it in close. You can see it goes off on a little bit of an angle as soon as we get close to the key. I think it wants to match up with this node right on the end here. So we'll bring it close, and then we will turn our snaps off again. And then kind of eyeball it, see if we can line it up. There. I think that's looking pretty good, actually. And then what we'll do, just make sure all of our infrastructure is in place. We just started with connecting up the pipes to our water pumps and the tank reservoir here. But we need to make sure that everything else is going to be covered. So we'll come straight down the middle road here. And then we'll hook up, I think, with this one just to make sure everything's nice and neat. What are we going to do? Just make sure our warehouse is covered here. And then as for access to our power facility, I think what we'll do is we will go and we will just extend this 4-lane collector road just a little bit further. And then we will put an entryway or an entry road. I'd like to actually put, I'm going to pause the game here for a second. I'm going to put another little side road just right here, just similar to this one right here for vehicles to be able to turn around. I don't want to have them have to travel all the way to the end here if they can avoid it. So we'll extend this just a little bit and then come up from right here, I think. See if we can line that up a little bit. And switch to our curved lane tool and just connect it like that. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. Oh, actually, what we need to do, if you've noticed that we have these water pumping stations here, but we don't have any water treatment facilities or any eco water treatment plants or anything like that. So I need to make sure that everything is connected up to the main water system of the city. Oh wow, you can see all the trucks turning around at the intersection here. Why don't I go into the junctions and turn off the light here? And then we'll have a free flow of traffic going through that little turnaround route. Okay, so sorry, we'll go back to connecting up the water pipes. Want to make sure that we have our water sewage hooked up. So we'll connect it up just like that. And then, why don't we, while we're right here, we'll just extend these power lines right to the edge here. So it is actually connected up to the grid, because eventually we're going to turn off the nuclear power plants that we have over here. So I want to make sure that our new nuclear power plants are actually connected to the power grid of the city. So we'll turn everything on. I don't think we're going to need to turn on our geothermal plants. Those are really more for appearance rather than anything. And actually, why am I turning these tank reservoirs on? We don't need those. So we'll turn on the science center and the park, our waste transfer facility. And I think the water of our city is pretty good. We're in the green, almost the yellow, but we do have 3 more pumping stations right over here that we can still turn on. So I'll leave these other ones turned off for right now. And as for the warehouse itself, again, this is something that is more for appearance rather than function. As for storing what resources we should be storing, there's not really anything that quite fits what would go into a nuclear power plant. You can't store any sort of uranium or anything like that, obviously. So I'm not exactly sure what I want to put in here. I think eventually once we start filling out the area, we will decide then. But for now, we'll just leave it empty. It's more of you know, at a nuclear power plant, I would imagine that they have a warehouse of stuff that they're going to be using, not necessarily uranium, but just kind of general maintenance and things like that that need to be used in and around the facility itself. So I think we will, for right now, leave it just like that. And I think that looks pretty good as it is. Again, we have our nuclear power plants. We have our water tank reservoirs, our science center and a park, geothermal plants for backup power and steam. Actually, we want the steam. That's one of the reasons why I turned it on. So let's turn these geothermal plants on and get the steam coming out of them just to kind of fit the area. There we go. I think that's looking pretty cool. And yeah, so it's connected right up to our 4-lane collector road. And obviously, as we continue to develop this area, this connection will change at some point. But for right now, this is how we're going to have everything connected. And with that, that'll be the end of this episode. I've gone ahead and I've removed our old nuclear power plants across the way over here. So our city is now being solely powered by our new power facility. Taking a look at the electricity info view, we can see that we are generating an abundance of electricity right now. Taking a look at the budget, we're at about 80% budget. So in the event that we need to generate more electricity, I just have to adjust the budget a little bit. If we have to upgrade the facility and we need to add more nuclear power plants, we can always just remove this medium warehouse across the side or just kind of adjust the layout a little bit and get some more nuclear power plants in the area. We're also having some visitors to our science center, 44 last week, and some to our park with trees, about 10. Again, that was to be expected, so we are seeing some traffic, but again, I'm not expecting anything too crazy. I think there will ever be any issues with traffic in the area. I think overall everything turned out quite nicely. I like the way it looks. I like having the electrical power lines coming out of the facility and the steam coming out of the geothermal plants. I think everything kind of fits well together. So thank you all very much for watching this episode. Don't hesitate to leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Also, don't hesitate to leave a like or a dislike and let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for some more City Skylines content in the future. And I'll see everybody in the next episode.